Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast with me, your host, Imperial Dane, featuring today our Monday Novice Fight. Yes, indeed, it's the Monday Times, the times for the Novice Fights. So hopefully you know what that means, otherwise watch and be horrified. We shall be having a 2 versus 2 here on Rhzhev. Yes, indeed, Rhzhev shall be the fighting grounds for today's Monday Novice Fight. We shall be watching Daddycool and Jackdonaghy going out for the 74th Infantry Division up against Shanskij and Klimat. Or Klimat. I have no idea how I'm supposed to pronounce that. I'll just pronounce them Klimat and leave it at that. Fighting for the Soviet Union for the 210th Rifle Division. It shall be a brutal fight, a grueling fight. Many of you shall be shocked, left in tears even, as you watch all the mistakes here made, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. If not, then you're really novices. Anyways, we are noting here quick infantry company starts from both players. Grenadiers on the way for Daddycool, same for Jackdonaghy, so both going out with some infantry. Pioneers moving on. Looks like they're spreading out a bit worse. We do see the Soviet players so far staying a bit closer together. So far, so good. And looks like Klimat is going for 2 combat engineer squads, not additional conscript squads, where Shanskij is actually getting out a lot of infantry. So also looks like Klimat is a bit short on units, but there we go. He's just going for lots of combat engineers. Why on earth is he doing that? I mean, they're not as good combat troops as the conscripts. They cost the same things up. Why is he doing that? I mean, already here I would definitely describe this as a bit of an odd choice. It's not really going to help Klimat that much early on. In fact, he might be hampering himself a bit, but let's see how this actually works out. Initial engagement up here on the left hand side. Pioneers might make it into a house. The conscripts could try and bar the way, but no, they're not. Apparently these... No, he doesn't even run for the house. Jackdonaghy actually keeps him out in the open. He can't decide where to go. Ach du lieber, should I get into the house? And then he finally decides on it. About bleeding time. That was a bit of a nasty decision which cost poor Fritz his life. Telephone salesman out Baden. And looks like the conscripts are making their way into their house as well, but really the pioneers should have gone into the house much earlier and they've been able to do some more damage to the conscripts, but now it's too late. They're in the house and they're 5-man. These grenadiers need to get into heavy cover. Forces taking apparently a nice break right here. Instead of pushing up, for example, cutting off the resources, cutting off Jackdonaghy. Grenadiers and MG42 sitting up there while we do see Daddycool pushing up here. MG on the way, and he's already going for bunkers this early on. He's barely got any units yet. He's building bunkers. Why? Also noting the support weapon company is ready. Combat engineers trying to flank end up getting shot down themselves. Fighting here is pretty much a stalemate, but another conscript squad from Shanskij shall break it. And there we go, the combat engineers rather obviously lost to the grenadiers. And we're seeing another bunker, and I rather fear that Daddycool will be hit with Maginot Syndrome. This idea that apparently just building up lots of fortifications will win you the war. When clearly it won't, because you're rather missing out. One of the primary things about war is that once your bunkers have been bypassed and you've got nothing else to hold the line, you're screwed. So I mean, this is really a huge novice mistake. That's really the sort of stuff you really see novices commit to mistaking, in particular larger team games. A lot of the builders just go, I shall build a lot of these things, and you know, then apparently they don't really think any farther than that. And then apparently if the opponent is also novice, of course he'll go, Ach du lieber, or Niet, I have been defeated by this great strategic mastermind. How can I ever overcome it? It's not like I have smoke to obscure their line of sight, vehicles to get behind them, or even abilities to just get past them. Ach du lieber, this is the end, Comrade Stalin. I have failed you. And of course the Germans going, nah, you shall never get... Oh, hey, what happened? That player's actually good. Ach, the Führer shall be most upset. I mean, really... It just doesn't work. I mean, really here, I mean, already we can easily see several flaws. One of them being, oh, hey, I'll just move over here. Oh, I got past. Or, you know, I'll just move over here and get past right behind. I mean, It's just not really hanging together. Or, for example, again, just popping some smoke. I mean, if you got a mortar again, it's just going to get past it. Oh, right here, there's not even this been upgraded yet. I mean, this also requires a lot of resources. He's got so many bunkers, yet he's not even upgrading them. In fact, he's also expending munitions on other things.
Pioneers ready for anything.
I mean, this man's clearly not thinking it through. And meanwhile, Jackdonaghy's not really doing much better either. Though he's got the slightly bigger force. In fact, we're also seeing the light mechanized company up pretty swiftly. As forces. And we're seeing a light machine gun, but again, why build so many bunkers if you're not going to upgrade them? It's a waste. And of course, also means that all of the defense you build up are for naught. All of the manpower here is for naught. I mean, priorities, man. If you're going to build that many bunkers, at least expend the munitions on them. Otherwise, you might not have bothered in the first place. Jackdonaghy seems to be going on a slight rampage here. The MG42 not really doing well either, too close to the enemy. Now, of course, we're seeing a field gun moving up, which could mean a bombardment. Although Vasily and Boris quickly go down. There we go. Close quarters barrage. MG crew almost dead, in fact. And there we go. Very dead. And he's going for another bunker. 4 bunkers. That is 600 manpower. And he's still not got the resources to actually upgrade them with machine guns. In fact, this one's just a waste of manpower. I mean, that's again a huge novice mistake. The whole, I'll build up a huge defensive line and hold it in the name of the Reich. And then I won't have to do anything else like actually thinking about tactics and strategy. Again, it's pretty poor stuff and really will only last against the most uninspired of opponents. The sort of opponent who will break down in tears at the very sight of a bunker, completely overcome with a lack of even slightly lateral thinking. Jackdonaghy, though, continues to pressure, but we also see that Shanskij actually was able to do some harassment himself. So in that sense, I mean, Shanskij is putting up some pressure, some resistance. We're also noting here both players are rushing for the Tankovy battalion commands. So a bit of armoured action on the way. We also noting here the bunker still not being dealt with. We also noting the engineers are actually repairing the MG42. Nice move, I suppose, though at the same time there's only one engineer to do it, and it's getting a bit cold. Conscripts moving up, half-tech with Grenadiers, Pioneers moving up to support here for Daddycool. He's also being a bit mobile, which I suppose is nice, but I, also suggest dealing with this a bit more swiftly. We're also noting Opel Blitz, so he's gone for assault support. Sturmunterstützung.
Give us something to do if our tracks freeze.
Shanskij a bit spread out here, just camping in the blizzard, hoping the NKVD doesn't find us and tells us to go. Snipers appearing here for Daddycool.
Our industry grows to support us.
And a squad of Panzer Grenadiers, probably arriving from some Panzer division to support the 74th Infantry Division and its stalwart defense of this area. Flame for a half-track, not really doing much either. All sides are sort of slowing down, and there you go, finally dealing properly with a bunker. Even turning about the field gun. Impressive, Klimat. You have reacted with about several minutes delay to actually reacting towards this. And still, he's upgrading both of these bunkers, not this one, which still means it's a waste. And of course, again, there's the whole, what happens if someone decides to deploy smoke? Oh wait, it becomes useless because then someone can just walk past it. Half-track moving up here, going to assault. Grenadiers popping out, might have, I don't know, gotten a bit less close. Rifle grenade here would have been nice. Grenadiers moving up though. Going to try and flank the field gun, I suppose. Half-track not really useful in the combat way since the machine gun is pretty much rubbish. Pioneers repairing, not aiding the situation with, say, a flamethrower. And looks like a T-70 tank is arriving. This is going to be really bad for Daddycool because he's got absolutely no anti-tank defenses. Again, he's not really got a lot of resource because most of the manpower went towards bunkers. There we go. Grenadiers got with light machine gun. Wasted. less than heroically by Daddycool. And we're seeing Festung support up for Jackdonaghy, popping over to Shanskij, who has gone for the mechanized support doctrine, giving him guards infantry, anti-tank and ambush tactics, marked vehicle, IQ-152, and bombing strikes. A potent doctrine. We're also knowing the anti-aircraft half-track, ready to detect anything from the Luftwaffe. Also using in this case as a minesweeper. I suppose more humane method than the others used by the Soviet Union, which pretty much amounted to pushing out some penal troops. Or I believe in some cases they also had a slight nasty tendency of using civilians for that. Though I'm less sure about that. I might be mixing it up with something else from my readings. Conscripts moving up. No anti-tank grenades. That's going to be a pretty foolhardy attack straight into the maw of the flamethrower half-track. These conscripts are not really doing too well either. Shanskij might want to work on his unit preservation there. He might also want to get a tank comrade before it is too late.
Establish our supply lines. Attack! Anti-tank gun is ready for action. Standing by.
But it was nice to see Jackdonaghy actually mining, and Shanskij's guard infantry, of course, less pleased about that. Both players have gone for support weapon companies, and now we got a half-track for Klimat. Support was T-70 and other things. It looks like Klimat is just hanging back here, not pushing further. We're also knowing the artillery field officer up for Daddycool. That is something. Anti-aircraft half-track charging in, straight into the Reichsarms. We only got a Panzerfaust to really seriously damage it, otherwise small arms will have a slight chance of penetrating it, but again, slight. Very slight indeed, in fact. MG42 holding up a part of Klimat's assault right there. Guards infantry doing what they can to provide fire support for the half-track. Will of course also reinforce it at the front lines. T-70 flanking about here. He's actually finally upgraded, but again, we're also noting that Daddycool has absolutely no anti-tank defences. And not a single pack, for example, which really should have happened. Grenadiers here need to retreat. Look, so Jackdonaghy, don't lose your men.
Half-track destroyed.
And there we go, forced retreat after the loss of the flamethrower half-track to a field gun appearing from behind. And the sniper evaluating the situation. Yeah, I'd best be very quiet, so he doesn't spot me. Huh. Hang on. Am I seeing this right? Oh, fancy that. Apparently he can have random headgear on, this sniper. It rather looks like he's got a cap on, but other times he's got something more of a furry hat. And yeah, sorry for sort of derailing everything for that, but that just sort of struck me. Pack here in a rather awkward position, but also looks to be a bit lucky that. But there's another pack up here. Actually stops the T-70 tank. Hurrah! But the pack over here is going to get outmaneuvered. Since the T-70 was allowed to get too close. Not really well handled there. You generally want your pack behind everything else to cover them against tanks. You don't want them at the front line, where there's less likely chance of them being able to ambush things. And that pack's definitely going to go down. A tragic shame. MG42 also needs to get out. And the pack got ruined in its entirety. A small victory for the motherland. And a Panzerkampfwagen has arrived to support the 74th Infanterie Division. Mines going down here. Jackdonaghy, a large supporter of mines again in a Monday Noise fight. That is always nice to see. Ever lovely. So definitely getting the Imperial Dane mark of approval. Panzergrenadiers moving uphill. Panzergrenadiers out in the open though versus a T-70 light tank. That is generally not either a good idea either, since the T-70 will generally be able to do a lot of nasty damage with its tiny 45mm gun. Panzerfaust. Oh, one shot there, and there we go. The T-70s, in fact, abandon the Panzer escort, though, gets wiped out by the conscripts. A rather unfortunate trade-off, but still, if they can recover that T-70 tank, that could actually aid the Germans a bit. Popping over to Klimat. West gone for Guards 5 combined arms, and both players are just getting a lot of Guards infantry. And the officer here is holding out, slightly reconsidering if this is actually the place he wants to die. Come on, Daddycool, retreat him. Rhzhev, come on. There we go.
We are ready.
Panzer IV needs to be careful, he needs to pull back, but of course field guns are moving in to sort it out. And apparently decides he wants to get as close to it as possible. Don't stop up, keep moving. Jackdonaghy, get it back to repair. Ultimately seeing a Panzer IV making a direct assault here, getting buttoned up. Not really the acme of well-considered assault, you know, directly attacking the enemy's frontal position with a single tank without any support or reconnaissance. Daddycool really needs to work out some things here. He's not good on the defense, he's not good on the offense. That would usually be a sign that he needs to get things together and really work on his attitude. Grenadiers retreating. Meanwhile, the Soviet bases are not really growing. In fact, noting that Klimat is floating a bit of resources, and he could probably get about close to 2 T-34 soon. Instead, he's getting an additional Guards infantry squad. In fact, we're seeing 4 squads of Guards infantry. We're also noting they're actually hanging about here, not pushing further. And looks like Klimat is then suffering a bit the same issue there as Daddycool, but slightly different. That is the I shall not move any further than absolutely needed to, because I'm worried that High Command might get slightly upset with me if I get too initiative rich or something like that. But basically he decides, I want to go here and I'm not going to move any further, despite it would actually be better for me to keep punishing my opponent. For example, he could try and get up here and knock out the Orbital Blitz and there'd be nothing to stop him. I mean, really, he's just sitting back here because he doesn't want to go any further. He doesn't want to push it. And sometimes what makes a good player is the ability to basically just push it. And again, that's not happening here.
All units are here.
Victory points, though not in the advantage of the Soviets. Again, that's also due to the more passive play, in particular of Klimat. And we're also noting here the half-track went completely busto after having hit the telemine. So that could have worked out better, I suppose, but I imagine the Germans are quite happy. We're also noting here that he used the mortar to actually wreck the T-70 tank, deciding he couldn't be asked to recover it. Sniper here, rather exposed again. You don't want the sniper that much forward. As a rule of thumb, you usually want him slightly better covered.
The new half-trackers arrive.
And we are noting something here. Officer calling in smoke. An interesting approach, calling in smoke on the enemy. Of course, it will force him to get closer, get away, but overall, it's a bit unclear what's actually hoping to happen here, though.
Enemy infantry has overlaid.
Pack up. T-34 moving in. Apparently, all the blizzard and smoke is actually slowing down my computer a bit. Pack needs to... Don't move it so close to the front line. Take safer passages. Have them cover the front line units. Ach du lieber. But T-34 needs to get out of the line of fire of the Pack 40.
We have lost the comrade.
Come on, Klimat. Don't slug it out. In fact, we're also noting here, he's actually using the officer's ability to make it fire faster and more accurately. That's actually slightly clever. We're also noting here, Stuka strafing run moving in. Pack 40, Vet 22, and there we go. It is down, it is down.
The enemy has destroyed one of our vehicles.
Pack needs to turn a bit, or, you know, fire on the half-track, but apparently can't. And gets wiped out. Apparently the Stuka did it. Guards infantry losing the battle of attrition up here. Grenadiers push forwards with a heavy combination of light machine guns and the Sturmgeschütz in support, actually getting a Stug. Clearly the support of a Stug brigade, which is where a lot of the Stuks were, basically independent Stuk formations meant to support wherever were needed, as Panzer divisions, infantry, whatever, the Stuk brigade would be there, or Stuk battery. Of course, some Stuks were also handed out to tank destroyer battalions, well, independent tank destroyer battalions. Of course, also let some people a bit slightly incorrectly think they were just tank destroyers, which is not quite the case.
They've opened up on us!
Pioneers launching an assault here with their Flammenwerfer. Also note here, Klimat is actually having a huge issue actually just holding this victory point. Again, he's pretty much the I shall not move any further, and he's also lost 2 guards infantry squad, so unit preservation definitely needs to be worked on as well. Or back at Daddycool with barely any units, but also note all the resources he's floating. He could easily get a lot of infantry, so why isn't he? Again, Daddycool has so much to work on. He needs to learn how to spend resources. Stop floating. He needs to preserve his units better. He needs to stop trying to build up the Maginot Line on the Eastern Front. And by Jove, he needs to stop just throwing in tanks one at a time. He's got a lot to work on. A lot. And the Stuk here needs to pull back. And also get a light machine gun upgrade, I think. There we go. Coming under fire from the field gun. Pull the Stuk back, Jack. Pull the Stuk back, Jack. Come on, man. Pull it back. There's no point in getting a Stuk if you're not going to work to preserve it. Ach, du lieber. Pioneers on the way. At least he's been consistent with artillery officers, I suppose. Also looks like the Pioneers managed to steal a field gun, but I think he might have sacrificed the Pioneer squad in the process, which is less good. Half tank arriving for Daddycool. Still. Stop floating, man. Stop floating, moving up this officer here. What he's going to do is he's going to coordinate it barrage. Ooh, lovely. That's a rarely seen ability, which basically means, of course, this mortar can fire more and also at a slightly higher range. And also I think it does more damage when you actually use it to coordinate barrages. Fun fact. But the mortar's actually getting counter-artillery from the field gun. Well done there by Klimat. Well reacted. Well reacted. I'll give him that. I'll give him that. Also note here the mortar's actually veteran 2, but oh dear, will go down. Very close. Keep reinforcing. Oh, too late. But we do see that the field gun actually gets wiped out. The officer, though, might want to consider pulling back. This is not really a good place to hang out.
Under heavy machine gun fire!
And calling in smoke and then using... I think Daddycool's just pressing whatever is there to sort of... out of panic. Panzergrenadier is wiped out again. He's... Jackdonaghy, he needs to stop sending out troops like that. He's in fact just handed out Panzerx to his opponent. Half-track got wiped out as well. Another tragic loss. This grueling fight of attrition. And a bunker gets wiped out. And we're actually noting here a 152mm howitzer zap. One of the big ones. Certainly not good news for the Germans. We're also noting that currently Jackdonaghy barely has any forces, but he keeps getting this Stuk. And we're also noting that Daddycool is getting this Stuk. Stuk mania. Let's see if they can actually use them. And note, he's actually now spending all resources on Panzergrenadiers. I suppose that's something. At least he's not floating resources anymore, and at least, you know, that's always sort of... We're seeing relief infantry used, but he's not attacking, he's not doing anything. That's pretty much just 120 munitions being wasted. Jackdonaghy, if you're going to use relief infantry, use it while you're under attack. Use it while you're attacking. Don't just use it. It doesn't magically give you Ostruppen. You actually need to, you know, lose some men for it. You need to bleed for it to work. So while I admire the idea, I'm actually glad someone is using relief infantry. The timing of it is pretty much rubbish. I mean, they're not fairies that will just appear. Ja, these Rhzhev, they are magical creatures. I just need to click this button and they will appear out of nowhere. Ah, Heinz, that is not how it works. 9? Yeah. Oh. Why is it never like that? Because we're not playing a fantasy game. This is World War II. Get it together. Popping over to Jackdonaghy with a slightly more impressive force, augmented heavily with Soviet field guns. Stug ready. T-34 moving a bit advanced ahead. Need to support the Stug though with infantry. Grenadiers are fighting with a mix of Soviet light machine guns and the German light Maschinengewehr. It was certainly not uncommon for troops on the front line to snatch weapons from the opponent. Usually though they prefer the automatic weapons, that way gaining as much firepower as possible. The SS troops in particular were very fond of this. But again, if you're going to use relief infantry, don't use it while you're standing back, use it while under attack or attacking. Very important. Grenadiers advancing while being supported by a barrage from the field gun. Interesting, interesting. And Grenadiers are making their way through. Oh, nice hit, and there we go. Soviet field gun wiped out. Not of infantry though to support this Stug. That should really be fixed. The artillery officer continuing here. Daddycool not doing much except keeping Klimat occupied. And Klimat not really doing much else either. In fact, he can't even protect himself moving up flank. I mean, actually, Daddycool's doing something right there. He's not just attacking from the direct head-on angle. Good, Daddycool. But attack with a larger force. And of course, there's another problem with placing the field officer here. And what would that be, Dane, you ask? If he loses this, he can then clear out this and then begin using it against his opponent. And field gun here could get wiped out. Stug in a bit of danger. Stug in a bit of danger. But looks like it happened. The field gun is no more. Panzer is fighting here. Stug blasting away with its higher range and higher rate of fire than the T-34. And of course, overall higher damage output. Needs to be careful, needs to be careful. Could get knocked out. At the same time, a T-34 moving up. Grenadiers need to pull back. Or at least have the field gun support a bit better. Bun grenade. Oh, Stug got it, Stug got it. And close to veterans one as well. Splendid. And the mines actually prevent a further assault. Well done there with the S-mines. And again, don't leave your tanks in front of anti-tank guns or field guns. So right here we did see that Shanskij actually suffered a lot of losses. Not so well done. And while Jackdonaghy also suffered, he also managed to keep his Stug alive. In fact, he's getting a second one. Fighting continues here. We actually see some panzers being dealt some heavy losses, but at the same time also flanking about and denying resources. And again, Klimat is just standing about. That really shouldn't be happening. So I mean, clearly some flaws on both sides here. But Daddycool is showing some slight glimmers of something greater. Time for the mid-game analysis. Current situation is a bit of a mess, as is meant to be for a Monday novice fight. But the Germans are dealing a lot of damage, but the Russians, they do hold some potent forces, but the problem is Klimat is largely not doing really a lot with it. He's got a house and he's otherwise sitting back. He's barely even holding the victory point right next to him, whereas we do see the Germans are actually being a bit more aggressive with their movement, which is rather better. I mean, that's rather how the Soviets ought to be playing, but currently aren't. We're also seeing that the Germans also now beginning to inflict some serious casualties, which is good. Tanks getting wiped up. We are also seeing, of course, that even Shanskij here is building up a huge force. Lots of Guards rifle infantry equipped with anti-tank rifles, other nasty things which actually prove to be a problem even for the armour if that many anti-tank rifles begin firing away. So, of course, they actually pose a serious threat and need to be dealt with in their own manner. Whoops, sorry if I hit the microphone right there. My apologies. But what they need to do is Daddycool needs to outflank this position, heading up here, wipe it all out here. In the meanwhile, Jackdonaghy needs to push up here, secure this. And if he can do this in the right way and actually cripple Shanskij further, he could even push forwards towards here. He also needs to support his Stooks. He needs this one repaired, by the way, and he needs to just keep pushing, and also needs to learn how to use relief infantry. A mortar half-track could also prove beneficial with a bit of incendiary rounds here and there. But let's return to the fight, and of course, Klimat needs to attack. He needs to stop sitting about like he's on a camping trip.
Ready. Panzer here.
Stug advancing.
We have a full complement. Stug here.
Loaded for panther hunting.
And a mortar and support here, and now we're actually seeing a mortar half-track arriving, and we're seeing a full guards assault here. MD42 not seeing unable to protect. Yes, he actually fires on a barrage straight at this. I mean, advancing horde. I have no idea why he isn't doing it. I mean, this would really be a good time for a light artillery barrage to break up this clump of infantry. Oh, the machine gun got wiped out. What a shame, what a shame. Panzer is moving up, mortar half-track moving up. Still, I suppose he might try and use the mortar half-track to sort this out. Stug getting repaired. The ice exploding. Huh? Well, looks like artillery though is firing. Yes, indeed. Klimat is firing in support of Shanskij. That is something.
We have lost a squad.
Sadly though, a field gun crew and the gun itself got wiped out.
Territory taken. Push on.
Panzer squad also almost wiped out. The heavy howitzer is quite nasty. Might not be the most accurate, but it does have a greater AoE. Well, area effect, yeah, whatever. Guards infantry running through the icy trench. And going to pop into the house by the looks of it, but might run into a problem with the Pentagon. It's also this bunker is barely standing at all. Daddycool not really doing much still. Looks like he's setting up some sort of position here.
We are down to 300 points.
And looks like an assault is finally happening here. Only 2 T-34s, by the way. I mean, 2 Stooks could do
Stug here.
and easily knock this out. But we're also noting here that Shanskij's increasingly large guards rifle force is moving out. This is quite something else. And there we go, Stug advancing. Pioneers leading the way. Grenadiers as well. Need to be a bit careful, but there we go. Stug opening up. Where is the second Stug? Where is the second Stug? Jackdonaghy, you want as many Stugs firing.
We need orders. Be careful.
Also noting he actually used the target weak point to actually stun one of the T-34s. Splendid. Come on, move it up, move it up.
We are losing a sector.
And the T-34s are not doing too well here. T-34 down, and this Stug is very close to Veteran G2. There we go. And the Guards infantry going to launch an assault. Where is the support? Barely anything at all. And why didn't he use relief infantry while attacking? He would have actually had a squad of Ostruben ready then. There we go, but it's too late again. He's too slow in actually reacting.
We are losing soldat.
Now the Stug's going to have to deal with all of this. And there we go, Veteran G2, but there are so many Guards infantry. And where's the rest of his force? Come on, move up the other Stug. Get as much fire down on them as possible. We're also knowing the Guards infantry has a Panzerschreck. And there we go, actually getting over quite a few kills on the Guards riflemen. Despite the huge hole. Come on, don't turn, why are you turning? What are you doing, Jackdonaghy? Just keep firing, your frontal armor is your only chance. Don't make it easier. And that's Jackdonaghy wasting a Veteran G2 Stug. Unbelievable. Had he already just moved this up, he would have easily had this. And also, of course, relief infantry is going to be wasted again. Daddycool, don't put your troops into the bunker that's about to collapse. So many mistakes. So many fundamental ones. And he's going to lose another Stug because he just moved it straight up to the Guards infantry. Mortar half-tech though doing a bit of nice damage there with the incendiary rounds. And the Guards infantry are finally forced away, but there's a lot of resources being wasted by Jackdonaghy. But at the same time, I mean, all of these Guards infantrymen are at the same time a nice squishy target, and they're probably also going to be quite a drain on the manpower. Still, Klimat is refusing to move at all. Ostwind arriving. Ostwind. Flak Panzer. Oh, it's actually time to pop over to Shanskij. My apologies. And again, 5 squads of Guards infantry, and he's still got plenty of manpower. He's slightly then saving up for this. Using his officer to boost the nearby fighting abilities, including the Ostwind, increasing its rate of fire and, of course, accuracy.
Guards troops ready for action.
Band grenade. I think he's trying to collapse the ice under it, but the T-34 is not far out enough of it to actually matter. And the Ostwind needs to be pulled back. Come on, Daddy. Never mind. A Panzer IV. More Panzer IV. Now they switched over again. Six squads of Guards infantry.
Present conditions are now in effect.
Shanskij pursuing his goals without any considerations. And artillery towards this German position, trying to catch the howitzer. Could also knock out the munitions cache and the orbital blitz. Howitzer by the way, infantry too, which also shows how much damage it's done. I mean, overall, the howitzer itself is not a bad investment. I would just call the position of it not very well thought out. And right here, I would suggest that Jackdonaghy himself moves, but again, he looks to be also hit by the same thing that has hit Klimat. That is, I don't move any further than I have to. Syndrome. Moving further up to Klimat, who's using his T-34s very defensively, which is not really where the T-34 shines. It's an attacker's tank, not a defender's. So a bit of a shame there.
Enemy forces are neutralizing a
Bit of a shame. Another Guards infantry squad. These guys really love their Guards infantry. I have never seen that serious Guards infantry spam in some time. Quite something else. And there we go, a vast horde of Soviet Guard riflemen moving up. Panzer is doing what they can, but there's not much to hold them back. Of course, the field gun could try and fire into this horde. Mortar half-tech firing away. We're going to see an incendiary round. If well placed, it could really cook up a lot. And there we go. Bun grenade goes off as well. The Guards infantry are taking heavy losses. Very heavy losses. Ten kills for the mortar half-tech grenadier standing by nearby with a light machine gun. Still not moving much here. Panzer IV rolling in about time.
It's done.
But again, Daddycool getting increasingly first back. And we see a full retreat here. The Guards infantry have taken huge losses. Huge losses, and they really didn't inflict the same thing on the Germans. We're also noting 13 kills in the mortar half-tech, a bit more, and it's going to be veterancy 2. In which case things are really going to speed up for its veterans again. T-34s are, by the way, not getting repaired at all. No idea why he's refusing to do that.
Do you need something?
And a T-34 out from Shanskij. Apparently not all of a sudden going against the ISU-152. Why? That really seems like a very, very, very odd choice from Shanskij. I would have thought the ISU-152, as soon as he could get it, would be his first priority, but apparently Shanskij has other ideas, which is not necessarily the best of ideas. Also note, none of these are actually guarding the central victory point.
What do you need?
We're also noting that the 2 Soviet players are quite severed. In fact, the 2 German players are quite severed. So there's a sort of slight issue of teamwork here. Neither player really works with the other much.
Combat engineers are standing by.
Looks like an assault might be mustered. And again, Klimat doing nothing. Although, strafing Lancer looks like Daddycool is supporting Jackdonaghy. Panzergunner is holding out in the shot off ground. Panzer IV arriving to support. And also advancing here, finally, Jackdonaghy is on the offensive, but still no support for the Panzer IV, which is not usually what you want to happen. And a mortar advanced a bit too far ahead there for his own good. And a Panzerwerfer. We're actually seeing the heavy Panzer core up. And a Panzerwerfer has been provided. Ooh, very clustered up here, and that's actually a nice target for the Panzerwerfer. Also, tons of Soviet equipment pop right here. Should be a nice treasure trove for Jackdonaghy to make use of. And a second Panzerkampfwagen 4. And the Guards infantry is on the assault again. Quite incredible how persistent he is. And also a bit due to the fact that Shanskij is not doing much to stop these blob assaults, not enough MGs or anything. Which is certainly something he should work on as well. Fine, they're going towards the central point. But Shanskij is also getting a bit crimson, but he's not still getting the ISU-152. Why on earth, Shanskij? Mortar half-tech needs to pull back before the Guards infantry turn it into a sieve. With the anti-tank rifles, although nice hit there, gaining veterancy too. Machine gun is actually up there. Mortar half-tech still needs to pull back. And another barrage over here, doesn't do an awful lot. More firing towards here. Guards infantry getting suppressed, Panzer IV moving up to support. Fighting is getting a bit hot here. As Shanskij seems to resort to human wave attacks with very elite infantry, which actually means very costly human wave attacks. And also making it easier for the mortar to actually kill them. Because if there's anything a mortar likes, it's clumped up infantry that can't move. And there we go, finally the ISU-152 arrives. That really should have been here much, much earlier. In fact, just note how many resources are floating even... Oh wait, that's wrong. Sorry, Daddycool, but Shanskij, but still, really shouldn't have happened. Really shouldn't have come in that late. That was really a poor choice there by Shanskij. Oh, why didn't he pull back the Opel Multi, the Panzerwerfer? Come on. Half-tech's firing down, Panzer IV blasting away. And there we go, T-34 gone. Also knowing he's actually outflanking, he's actually building a munitions cache right there, but he's cut off the fuel for the Soviets. Well done there, slight cleverness on the behalf of Daddycool. Well thought. Although I'm not entirely sure if that was worth the munitions, but still, stop floating resources! Stop floating them! Das ist ein Befehl! Lots of mortars up for Daddycool. A small light battery. Panzer IV might want to move up to actually shoot at the T-34. What are you doing, Daddycool? Again, so many odd things going on. That really ought not to happen. But the Soviets are definitely on the less than good side of things. We're also knowing that Shanskij has actually lost several Guards infantry squads now. This position is not looking too well either.
Infantry squad has been killed.
But looks like Klimat continues to kill, wiping out the mortars now. Just building lots of machine gun bunkers without them ever achieving anything, which is not really good. And we're seeing Jackdonaghy on the move, not repairing his Panzer IV though. Bad move. He's actually getting relief infantry now. That's better timing for it. Though you don't want to wipe out entire squads, you don't want to waste them. And there we go. You just need to lose individual members, not entire squads, for it to work. Panzer IV wiped. And the ISU 153 needs to be cleared out, needs to be flanked. Grenadiers need to retreat. Rhzhev, Jack. There we go, blitzkrieging, but still this one needs to move. Does not happen. Grenadiers need to retreat. Rhzhev. Also note here, Osttruppen squad out. Another Panzer IV. And there we go, Panzer IV gets the ISU 152. Going for that victory point once more. The Russians are currently holding none. Veterans infantry guard squad moving up. That could prove dangerous. Panzer IV needs to blitzkrieg again if it can and get out of there. Don't stop up, don't stop up, don't stop up! Why on earth do you do that, Jack? So many tactical moves that make no sense. Still, we are seeing the Osttruppen. Been some time since we've seen these gentlemen. About the same strength as conscripts, but they can't fire on the move. On the other hand, they get a slight bonus when they're in cover. So, a little fun fact there. And Daddycool needs to start flooding resources. Again, I have no idea why he insists on doing so. Of course, question is, how shall Jackdonaghy continue this? Let's just speed things up. Until he continues to fire. Oh, straight into the base, actually causing some huge losses. Cheeky that.
Engines are warm. I hope you have orders. It's cold out here. Ready.
Panzers with Panzer IV support going to the victory point again. Looks like all the fighting is going to take down here because again, Shanskij is pretty much crippled at the moment.
Our base is under attack.
Large infantry force moving out there, while looks like Jackdonaghy is actually dispatching forces to try and help his friend, his comrade in arms, Daddycool. Panzer IV is lost, tragically so. Stug arriving and Panzer IV arriving.
Awaiting orders!
Full assault up here, abundant grenades, grenades everywhere. Light machine guns of all kinds joining in the fight as well. And looks like a strafing run getting called in, or perhaps sector artillery. No, that's a strafing run. Everybody's pinned to the floor. Stug flanking this. Well, that could be the end of the field gun, if it can hit. And a small guard squad moving in from Klimat. Veterans infantry field gun. The Stug's not going to last much longer. There we go, almost down in one shot. And there we go, ran out of victory points. A victory for the Reich, although rather close at times. And in some cases not so well thought out. So, what were the lessons here? I mean, we saw some good things, we saw some interesting things. I mean, we saw mining actually being used rather actively, at least by Jackdonaghy. That's nice to see. We saw Stugs being used, though the usage of the Stugs could have been better. I mean, it was rather rushing at times, not quite thinking about. And again, unit preservation was a factor here. Sometimes, you know, rushing in units, not pulling them out in time. And, you know, not sometimes also not quite considering facing of the units either. That's something that needs to be improved on. We saw some good uses of basically stealing equipment from the opponent, although usually the Germans stole it from the Russians, vice versa, less so. So that might also be something the Russians could have been done better, and they certainly could have been mining better. Of course, we saw some serious problems with Klimat and Daddycool. They both suffered from much more static approaches. In particular, Daddycool's rather was very close and costing the game already right there. Ultimately, though, Klimat's own passiveness rather cost the Soviets the advantage then, ultimately perhaps even the entire game. Shanskij on the other hand was more aggressive, but he was also ultimately not very tactically sound. He would constantly blob up, which allowed Jack to actually much easier lock down the assault, and with the mortar half to actually do a lot of damage. I mean, you usually want to spread out a bit on the assault, in particular as the Soviets. You want to attack from as many angles as possible. Had he done that, he would probably have won the match right there. So of course, unit press needs to be worked on. Usage of abilities like relief infantry needs to be worked on. I mean, that was also a problem. Lots of munitions wasted there. And of course, stop floating resources. And of course, don't wait that long to get an ISU-152. So, I mean, a lot of things that could have been worked there. But ultimately, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, why not subscribe to the friends? If you didn't, well, why not to replay of your own? This is Imperial Dane saying cheers.